Let us pray. Father, we thank you for the opportunity, first of all, that we could call you Father. And we ask that as we meet together, our,
You still there, Vaughn?
our purpose is that we might um, help those that feel voiceless, to be a representative to those that feel like they're not seen. We ask for your guidance. We ask for your grace as we meet together. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. And with that, let me welcome everybody to a community solutions meeting of the Buffalo Education Equity Task Force. I know the people around the table, most people around the table know who the Buffalo Education Equity Task Force is, but for those who don't, and those who might be listening, the Buffalo Education Equity Task Force, really started off as a meeting between the Urban Think Tank and the University of Buffalo Graduate School of Education, coming together and really looking at how we could work together to impact education. But it very quickly grew into a broad coalition that includes, people from every sector. We have people part of the coalition. We have 7 of the 12 colleges at the university who are part of the coalition. We have the Buffalo Urban League, the NAACP. We have the Buffalo Equity Coalition. We have the District Parent Coordinating Council. We have the Concerned Clergy. We have the Oshai Foundation. We have a lot of individual members. So we have a really broad coalition of people representing the business community, the not-for-profit philanthropy, higher ed. The Villa Maria College is also on there, along with University of Buffalo. So we have a broad coalition of about 50 people who meet monthly and are committed to impacting education equity in Buffalo. Right now, the co-facilitators of that include Dr. Suzanne Rosenblith with the University of Buffalo Graduate School Education, Dr. Amanda Winklesass with the University of Buffalo Graduate School Education, and Reverend Kaiser Pointer, who's the pastor at Liberty Baptist and also a member of the Urban Think Tank. And so we have been having a series of monthly meetings where we're looking to not only impact equity in education, but also to support, do the research to support the things that we're going to need to do to get equity in education. And so in the course of doing that, we started maybe a month ago bringing in speakers. The last speaker that we brought in was a representative from the Buffalo Public Schools, the Chief Operating Officer, David Hills, and he gave us the data that we're going to be talking about today. And so what we wanted to do is facilitate a process where we can have a discussion that focused on solutions. So we're not here today to talk about anything about the problem specifically, only as relates to the solutions, things that we can do to address that. And so before we jump into the actual specific issue we're going to talk about today, I want to go around and give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. And I know the temptation is always to the people on the screen to kind of get lost in the conversation. So to make sure we include the people who are joining us by Zoom, we're going to start with you, and then we're going to come around and have each of the participants here introduce themselves, and then we will introduce our guests from the elected officials office and appointed officials office. So with that, we'll start on the screen, and we'll start up there at the top right corner with you, Yamika. Just introduce yourself and say what organization you're representing.
Sure. Good morning. Yomika Bennett. I'm the Executive Director of the New York Charter Schools Association. I'm from Albany, and I am the president of the Black Child Development Institute, the Albany affiliate, and the Albany Air Urban League. So very interested in children development, education, etc.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Ms. Perez, Cherry Perez.
Good morning, everyone. Natasha Cherry Perez with the New York State Charter Schools Association. here to be
Thank you.
of support and listen in and do what I can to help.
All right. And our longtime partner, Jessica.
Good morning, everybody. Wear a lot of hats, but in my capacity here today, president of the Buffalo Public Schools Community Health Worker Parent Association.
Thanks, Jessica. Latrice.
Good morning. My name is Latrice Martin. I am a Buffalo Public School parent. I am a child care professional, and I am part of the Western New York CCAT organization.
All right, thank you. Jordan Johnson. Is Jordan? All right, we'll come back to you, Jordan. Yvonne Gilliam.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Yvonne Gijang. I work with the New York State Charter Association, and I'm here to support and see how we could just move this forward. Make sure we get equity for all of our kids.
Thank you. How do you say your last name?
Gijang.
Gijang. Oh, I was way
Gijang.
off on that.
It's,
All right.
it's okay. People
All right.
mispronounce my last name.
Yeah. All right, Vanetta.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vanetta T. Rhodes. I am first and foremost a mother of a Buffalo Public School student. He goes to Da Vinci High School. I also am a member and co-founder of Western New York Child Care Action Team. Great to be here. Great to hear everyone.
All right, thank you. And Yodana Middleton.
Hello, I'm Yodana Middleton. I'm the Assistant Director for the UB Teacher Residency Program, as well as a grandmother of children in the Buffalo Public Schools.
And thank you, everybody online, for joining us. And so we'll go around the table and we will introduce ourselves in the room.
Edward Spidell, President DPC and proud parent of 2 current Buffalo School children.
Pastor Pointer.
Bishop Badger, Urban Think Tank.
Good morning, Janique Curry. I'm with the New York Charter School Association as well. I'm the representative here. My colleagues on the phone are in Albany, Brooklyn, and the Bronx.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Duncan Kirkwood. I'm a national speaker, resilience trainer, and the director of the Center for Resilience at Villa Maria College.
No, we gonna introduce y'all last. We're gonna come back over here and we'll. Yep.
Good morning. I'm Suzanne Rosenbluth, the Dean of the Graduate School of Education at UB and a parent of a Buffalo Public School student.
And I'm Amanda Winklesass, Assistant Dean for Outreach and Community Engagement and Director of the UB Teacher Residency Program.
All right, Emmanuel.
Hello, everybody. I'm Emmanuel Rafford. I'm with the NYCLU.
All right, so thank you, everybody. So with everybody having introductions, we now are going to bring the people who we are here to talk to today. Our guests, our invited guests, to kind of hopefully have a great interactive conversation. And so we'll start over here with you. And if you just give your name and what office you are representing today.
Darren Saxon, Director of the Office of New Americans for the City of Buffalo.
Chantel Thompson, Chief Diversity Officer for the City of Buffalo.
Hi, Joanne Tomasulo. I work for Senator Sean Ryan's office, Community Liaison.
Hi, I'm Megan Corbett Rizzuto. I'm District Director for Congressman Brian Higgins.
Good morning. My name is Marietta Knight Bates. I'm Chief of Staff for Legislator Howard Johnson.
Good morning. I'm Zanetta Everhart. I am Director of Diversity and Inclusion for New York State Senator Tim Kennedy.
All right. Good to see you, Vanessa. All right, thank you so much. So first of all, let me just give a little bit of background for people who don't know. We sent a letter to all elected officials on every level, federal, state, and local county and local government, and asked them to be part of this community solutions meeting. In that letter, we sent the background information for what we're going to be talking about today. And so I want to just first of all say the people who couldn't make it today, but who have set up meetings with us to let you know how we're going to follow up this meeting. So we did get a response back from Governor Hochul's office. We have a separate meeting set up with Shirley Paul and Mo Sambundu from the Governor's Hochul's office. I guess we still, we got the congressman here. Congressman Jacobs is here. And council member. Okay, so we're gonna have to make some room over there. See if we can make some room over there. We also got a confirmation back from the New York State Attorney General office. And so we have a meeting set up where we will meet this week with Joseph Malzewski. I'm pronouncing that wrong. Malzewski. Okay, thank you. We will be meeting with Joseph Malzewski. He's the acting director of intergovernmental affairs. We also got a response back from the New York State Education Department, where we are actually originally Christina Coughlin, the Assistant Commissioner of the Office of School Governance and Policy, was supposed to be with us today, but she couldn't make it. So we did get a commitment to meet directly with the Commissioner and the Chancellor. So we'll be meeting both with the Commissioner and the Chancellor this week. And we got a response back from the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights, and we have a meeting scheduled with John Carroll from the U.S. Office Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. So those are the upcoming meetings that we will be having following this meeting. Because at this point, we have an unconditional commitment to work every day to ensure that at some point we are able to solve this crisis, this transportation crisis in Buffalo. We've been joined by the congressman and by the council members, so we're going to just stop and let them introduce themselves. Congressman Jacobs.
Caught up on this issue, so I read your memo last night and described the situation. Certainly read about it in the paper over the last number of months, and I have one more month in Congress, so I don't have many answers to the questions you had. I'm going back tonight, actually, so we'll certainly seek out if there's anything right now that is able to be done, or if there's discussions in the future regarding utilization of existing funds that have come from those various COVID funding, allow more flexibility to deal with this issue, which I would imagine is not unique to just Buffalo, but other urban areas as well.
Thank you. Pass the council.
Good morning, everyone. Ulysses Wingo, City of Buffalo Common Council, Maston District. Also serving as pastor of Antioch Baptist Church right down the street. Here today to ensure that I can hear the voices of all of the concerns that we are facing as it relates to the transportation issues in our school district. This has not just been a problem that we've been facing today, but a problem that we've been facing for many years now. And I am so grateful for the leadership of our brother Sam Rafford in bringing all of us together to make sure that all of these great minds contribute to the conversation that will ultimately bring us to the conclusion where we will have a solution for the problems that we face in our Buffalo school systems, transportation system. We've in the Maston District office, we have been working diligently alongside with the school district Williams to ensure that we had substantive solutions and real life action that can be done to help put people in those buses to ensure that when the school children's day begins on that school bus, that they have sufficient supervision and that they are being as safe as possible, just like our nurses associations who are screaming and crying that we need more nurses in the hospitals. It's not safe for our family members to be in those hospitals without sufficient nurses. It's not safe for our children to be on buses without sufficient staff. And we need to make sure that we are doing everything we possibly can to ensure that we, as the leaders of the community, pull our resources together and do everything we can to help the school district achieve their goals of putting more folks on these buses. Thank you, Brother Sam, for the invitation.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we thank all the elected officials who accepted our invitation. And hopefully the time we will spend together today will help us move closer toward a solution. Let me just tell you the two things that most directly led to us being in this room right here, right now. The first one was this report that you have that came from this chief operating officer of the Buffalo Public School District. And just to be very clear, this data is data that covers precise numbers. You know, in the media, we talk about, there are hundreds of kids or there are thousands of children. This data gives us data on exactly every day of the month, how many kids were left not picked up, how many kids were brought home late. And so we have the precise data on that. And even with that, let me just say, from my perspective at least, this is also conservative data. You know what I'm saying? This is not exaggerated to make the point. This is really conservative data. Like one of it, it'll say the top 10 impacted schools, which means over 10 uncovered routes. So that means all the schools that had 5 uncovered routes, we didn't document them. You know what I'm saying? So the data could show way more than it's actually showing, right? So this is the conservative side of the data. But when David Hills, on behalf of the superintendent, Dr. Tanja Williams, came and presented this to us, obviously we knew it was a crisis already. But here's the important point that I think we want to start the discussion off with today, is that everybody said this is a national problem. This is going on all over the place. But some things that are going on in Buffalo are not going on all over the place. They're only going on in Buffalo. And so we gotta move the conversation to talk about what's happening to Buffalo Public School students specific that's not happening to anybody else. So yes, there is a driver shortage. Yes, there is a transportation crisis, but the impact of that crisis is impacting Buffalo Public Schools differently. So we had a meeting because a solution was put on the table by the superintendent, as you know, in the information that we gave you. The solution that was put on the table by the superintendent, I won't go over the details of that right now. I'll do that at another point because I want to say something else right now. The solution that was put on the table, it would solve the problem totally. In other words, everything we're going to talk about, that solution would solve the problem. The solution required a vote of the Buffalo Teachers Federation because of the impact of their contract. So the Buffalo Teachers Federation voted it down. And so what we wanted to do is, as opposed to just react, we wanted as a task force to bring the Buffalo Teachers Federation in and hear directly from them. So the last meeting we had, we heard directly from Phil Rumore, the president of the Buffalo Teachers Federation, who explained to us their reasoning for voting it down. But it was also at that meeting that Council President Pridgeon was at, where he said that the situation is way worse than he had realized. And he was wondering why he was not aware of how bad it had gotten. And he said he ventures to believe that all the elected officials don't know how bad it is. And that what we need to do is get all the elected officials in one room and make sure everybody know actually what's going on so that we can all put our minds together and come up with a solution. So that's what this meeting is about. So I don't want to go through all the details because I already gave you the background information, but I want to give you enough information to where we can start a conversation about what we can do to move toward a solution. So essentially, here are the things that are going on that's affecting Buffalo Public School students that are not affecting other students. The first thing is, not only do we have a shortage of drivers, the impact of having a shortage of drivers is that Buffalo Public Schools right now do not have after-school programs for all their children. All the schools in Western New York, every other school district in Western New York has after-school programs for all their children. Buffalo Public Schools only have after-school programs for students who walk to school or parents who bring them to school. There are 27,000 students that are brought to Buffalo Public Schools on the bus who don't have access to after-school program. Why is that a critical point? Buffalo Public Schools in this application for its ARPA funds in order to catch kids up said one of the things it was going to do to catch children up is it was going to use the acceleration model. It wasn't going to hold any kids back. It was going to use an acceleration model and catch kids up through after school programs and Saturday school programs. So if the way we're catching kids up is through the after school program, but we didn't have after school program last year, we don't have that. We won't have after school program for everybody last year. The question is, how are we catching kids up who fell behind during the pandemic? So Buffalo Public School students who already were the furthest behind and who fell further behind are in this moment falling even further behind because they don't have something as basic as an after school program. The next thing is, so the other thing that's happening just in Buffalo is that because children, when they have to go catch the bus, they have to be brought down and they have to get on the bus in an expeditious manner. Our children don't have a full day of instruction. So if school ends at 3 o'clock, school has to stop at 2:20. So children can go down and be in the auditorium and be staged so they can wait for the bus to come. So when the bus comes, you're not trying to gather kids around to get them onto the bus, according to what David Hill shared with us. And so what that means is that they, even though that child goes and they on the bus, in the auditorium waiting to go to the bus, we said, well, since children are in school and we don't know when the bus is coming, can we go ahead and do after school type programming with them? They said, no, you can't do after school programming while they're being staged in the auditorium, because when the bus comes, the kids got to move quickly to get on those buses because the bus has to go on another run after it dropped those kids off. So you can't be calling kids to the auditorium trying to gather kids at that time. So even though kids are called down to the auditorium early, they may end up sitting in the auditorium for 2 hours for the bus to come. So we're losing instructional time in Buffalo. That's not happening everywhere. That's not happening all across the country. That's happening specific to Buffalo. And the people who need more instructional time are actually getting less instructional time. The third issue is that Buffalo Public School students are the only students who don't get to go on any field trips. They can't go on field trips because the bus that you need to take on the field trip is needed to go pick up kids for the afternoon run. So there's no field trips. And you also can't go and Buffalo Public School students can't have any modified sports. For those who are Buffalo Public School students and you played football on the basketball team or the baseball team and you went and played other schools in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, there's no modified sports. So now just kind of like mentally put yourself or put your child in a situation where they go out in the morning for the bus. They don't know for sure whether the bus is going to come or not. The bus may come on time, it may not come on time. And then if the bus don't come on time, they get to school an hour or two late. And let me just give this as a part of that note. Even when the bus does come, the average time that the child is on the bus is 55 minutes. That's the average time. So some kids are on the bus an hour and 15 minutes. Some people are on the bus 40 minutes, but on average, 55 minutes one way. So children, after they're waiting for the bus, they spend another 55 minutes on the bus. And so now once they spend the 55 minutes on the bus, we now have children who arrive to school and they have to get breakfast. So they're not going right to class even when they get to school. So again, instructional time is lost. So we have the instructional time loss, and then we now go into the fact that on the bus, when they get on the bus, there are average of 50 to 60 kids on the bus, to the point that you made, council member. So once they get on the bus, it's not a safe bus trip. You got 50 to 60 kids on the bus that don't necessarily have a bus aid. So they're on the bus with the only adult supervision being the bus driver. Now that would be a call for CPS if we was doing that in a classroom or in our home. We're trying to travel somewhere, with 50 or 60 kids, but that's the normal day in the life of a Buffalo Public School student. So those are things that are going on specific to Buffalo that are not going on in other places. So at least at this point, we can't push this off and say that this is going on all over the country. It's not going on all over the country. It's going on specific to Buffalo, and it's having a huge impact on our students. And so what we want to do today is spend time by looking at what we can do to solve those problems. And before I do that, I'm gonna just check with any of my colleagues to see if there's anything that we didn't cover that we want to cover. Good. So having covered that, what we would like to do is look at a series of things that we can do. We want to start off by giving you the opportunity to say if there are things you know from your office, whether it's from the state, the city, the county, or the federal government, that can be done to do something to bring a solution to this situation. We would like to hear that. We want to talk about the superintendent solution. The superintendent offered a solution, and we can talk about that first, or we can let y'all talk about it. Whether y'all have other solutions y'all want to bring. Would y'all like to talk about the superintendent solution, or y'all talk about y'all solution? All right. So let me say that. So just so everybody clear, we're committed to working on solutions. So we've been working as a community to offer solutions. So for example, one of the solutions that we've been working on is the contract with parents to bring their children to school. So we will reimburse the parents who bring their children to school. So we work throughout the summer, working now diligently on that as a solution. So we've been collectively working, trying to get to a series of solutions. In that process, the superintendent brought a proposal to us in September that would actually solve all those problems. She made a proposal to go to a 3-bell schedule. Currently, there's a 2-bell schedule. The 2-bell schedule has school start at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. The superintendent's proposal, it would change the schedule to start at 7:30, 8:30, and 9:30. If we started at 7:30, 8:30, and 9:30, immediately what would happen would be that we would decrease the amount of time on the bus from an average of 55 minutes to an average of 30 minutes. We would immediately decrease the number of kids on the bus from 50 to 60 down to 30 or 40. We would immediately be able to provide after-school programs for all children. We would immediately be able to provide modified sports program for all our middle school students. And we immediately be able to do field trips for all students. That would happen as soon as we got into full implementation of the 3-bell schedule. And so the superintendent proposed that. Obviously, as a community, as parents, we thought that was a great idea because now the problem goes away. And then at least there's a whole nother set of problems that we got to address. But the most fundamental problem of our children getting to school will be solved because we will get to school, children to school every day on time. So that went to the Buffalo Teachers Federation for a vote. And if you look in your packet, you will see that the Buffalo teachers voted overwhelmingly to not approve the MOU. And I'm specifically using that language to not approve the MOU because in meeting with them, that's what was said. I'm sorry. It's in the packet that was sent to the elected officials. So I'll tell everybody. And I'm going to cover that right now. All right, so there were 2,164 out of 3,800 teachers who voted. Of those 2,164, 273 voted in support of signing the MOU. 273, 12% voted in support of it. 1,823 voted against it. 84% voted against the MOU, and 3%, 68 voted abstain from the vote. So that was the and so when we met with Phil directly to find out why they voted against it, because obviously it was a common sense solution. We thought that this would get us moving forward. He told us 2 things. He said the first thing is that they did not vote down the 3-bell schedule. they voted down the MOU. They did not like the language in the MOU. Historically, Buffalo had done a 3-bell schedule before. This wouldn't be the first time they've done it. But when they did it in the past, it was something that the superintendent, they negotiated year to year. And the language in this MOU, it would have gave the superintendent the authority to change the bell time whenever the superintendent wanted to. And they didn't want to they wanted to negotiate it year to year. So they didn't like the language in an MOU. The second thing, which was probably more pressing thing, was because the 3-bell schedule is part of negotiations right now. And they're in the middle of negotiating the contract. And so in the middle of this negotiation, he was very frank with us. He said it's not likely that teachers are going to support this since it's part of the negotiation. You know, whereas in the negotiation, there's a give and take. So if they give this, they get something in return. And so in this particular case, since this is one of the items that's in the negotiation, it's not likely that they will support. So right now, the last number that we got is about 70% of teachers live outside the city of Buffalo. Right.
I'm sorry, y'all. So essentially, you're saying that the MOU was voted down, although 70% of the teachers who voted have no skin in the game, so to speak, because they don't have children who attend the school district and they don't live in the school district. I think that's a problem.
Well, let me be clear. So I'm not saying that that's what the Buffalo Teachers Federation said. We invited Phil so that we are not talking about speculation. We heard directly from the representatives of the Buffalo Teachers Federation. And I would also venture to say that it's not fair to say that teachers have no skin in the game, because the educational outcomes of children, you know, is going to be impacted by this decision. You can't teach kids who are not there. You can't teach kids who are getting there late every day. So that the performance of their students is on the line here. So I would suggest that if they care about the performance of the students, that they do have skin in the game in that way.
Well, the only reason why I said they don't, Sam, is for the same reason why I say police officers should live in the city of Buffalo. We have people who are working here and bleeding the city of resources who don't live here. Now, I have a particular interest in the school district doing very well because I live here. I have a particular interest in the Buffalo police living here because I want them to know me and I want me to know them and I want the neighbors to know who they are as well. These students, these teachers go home, they don't have to look at their students again. They don't have to see these students again. They see them for 6 hours a day, and then it's all back to the suburbs. That's a problem. Now, I understand the issue at hand is the busing and the transportation. The teachers voted, though, who don't live in the city, who are not directly impacted by this, made the decision for the families who actually send their children, who have no other options than to send their children to the Buffalo School District. That's my issue, and that's my point. We have folks who don't have children, who don't live in the city of Buffalo, making decisions for the people who actually will be most impacted by those decisions. That's my point.
So well taken. And so again, our focus today is, given that that's the case, we were looking for solutions. And so what we're asking at this point in time is to, one, what we want to do first and foremost is make sure that everybody got the same information. So the first question right now is, based on what is presented, do anybody got any questions about where we are at right now? Because once we establish where we at in current reality, then we're going to look for a way forward. So, but we want to make sure we all starting in the same place. So any questions about where we at or how we got here?
Since the MOU was voted down, right? What is the status of that, right? So is there a point of negotiation, or is it just they're not going to do it and that's just it? Or is there a conversation still being had about, you know, changing the language? If they don't like the language, let's change the language. If they're for the 3-bell system, then what is it about this MOU that is the problem? How are we fixing the MOU?
Thank you. Very good common sense question that obviously we asked as well. And so the answer is yes, they still negotiate. So they had a meeting last week, Monday. You know, obviously nothing changed in the meeting. But again, just to kind of, you know, and for those who want to see the conversation, you can go to the We the Parents excuse me, Facebook page and see the conversation where we ask these questions directly to Phil Rumore. But he made it clear that the difficulty, the language, they could correct that. But the difficulty is, as long as this is part of the negotiation, it's going to be difficult to deal with this separate, long as it's part of the collective bargaining process. So that's the holdup right now.
So are you saying that they want something in return? Like, am I hearing you say that?
So hopefully one of the things that have come out from this meeting is that other people besides us as a task force can ask the Teachers Federation that, because we've asked that as a task force. And the answer they gave us was it's part of negotiations. So whatever that means, I mean, we could speculate on what it means. I got my idea what that means. My hope is that our children are not a pawn in a negotiation between the Teachers Federation and the school district. But at the end of the day, the answer was it's going to be difficult to do this because it's part of negotiations.
Sam, we also learned that even if a solution was identified, it would still take 4 to 6 weeks to implement this. So we're almost at the end of the school year. I mean, that's how bad the situation will get if we have to wait months for a negotiation or the collective bargaining process to see its way through. We're adding another month and a half.
There's no question about that. So even once we approve if the 3-bell schedule gets approved, or one of the things that we're going to ask this body about is the possibility of moving forward with having some level of government, whether that's the city government, the mayor's office, or whether that's the state government, somebody from the governor's office or the state legislature, impose a solution, right? Even if they were to impose a solution tomorrow, which is say we're going to go ahead and go with the 3-bell schedule, it's still going to take 4 to 6 weeks to fully implement it. So our kids are going to be going through the winter months, no matter what, you know, having this challenge. And the longer it takes us, you know, the more time that they're going to spend having to spend out in the winter cold, you know, not knowing if a bus is going to come.
Well, Sam, what do you mean when you say impose a solution?
So here's some of the other parts of the conversation. So one of the things, obviously, this type of situation came up in negotiations before when we talk about the single payer healthcare, and the district went forward and against the contract, they imposed the single payer healthcare. And then obviously the union took the district to court and they, you know, got an injunction, but that they went forward with it and then they negotiated it later. But they went ahead and implemented the single payer healthcare and worried about it down the line in terms of negotiations. So one of the options that we've asked the superintendent to consider is just going ahead and implement the 3-bell schedule, because as a superintendent, she can implement it, but obviously that creates a situation where she is going to be sued by the Buffalo Teachers Federation. One of the things that we want to talk about in terms of possibility is there the possibility that the Common Council can pass a resolution calling for the declaration of a state of emergency. And the mayor based on what's going on with our kids, send a request to the governor, asking the governor to, based on a state of emergency, to impose a 3-bell schedule as a solution to ensure that all of our children are getting a sound basic education.
So to answer your question, the Common Council can absolutely write and pass or adopt a resolution, but a resolution is only a position that we've taken. It's not really an action, something that can be action can be taken upon unless it's something that we're using to modify or amend the city's charter. But we can declare from the state of from the Common Council a state of emergency, but no one has to pay attention to it.
Well, but here's the point. In order for the governor to act, if the Common Council passes it, and then a request comes from the mayor to the governor, that gives us a unified front to the governor to declare a state of emergency.
It absolutely gives us leverage, and I am, speak for myself, personally happy to do that. When I sat as a chair for the Committee on Education for the Common Council, I was very much involved in the daily operations, or not daily operations, but the goings on of the district. But I will be happy to make sure the resolution gets presented to the Common Council if that's what you're asking. That's not a problem. My issue is imposing. The Common Council can't impose anything. The mayor can't impose anything, but you did clarify when you said the superintendent will just go ahead on and move forward with that action and change to a 3-bell system and then worry about the aftermath in court.
That's one of the options, but obviously, in that conversation, that's not something the superintendent has moved on. And again, we want to move forward with a solution. So if the Common Council will consider a resolution, if the mayor will consider supporting a resolution, then our conversation with the governor. Because the governor clearly has the authority to declare a state of emergency, and then she has emergency powers that come with that. I'm saying that so that maybe our state legislators can clarify for me. Is that something the governor would be able to do?
Let's keep in mind when we're asking the governor to act, there is already education law that allows the governor to act. Under receivership, the governor can impose a special master, and the special master on day one could impose a solution. And so what we're asking is for city government to be speaking with one voice and to be asking for the governor to actually implement that section of New York State education law that allows for the appointing of a special master, and that the directive from the governor's office is to fix this and to do that by imposing a 3-bell schedule and moving immediately to a solution. That may be difficult for some politicals to want to do, but this is about, when do we give children a real opportunity in their own schools to be present to learn? I mean, because you learn nothing at home, and we've already seen the miserable failure of distance learning for K-12 students, and all of the research that's coming in now is saying that that was a miserable failure from the word go. So this would impose an immediate solution, but it has to be that our elected officials, particularly the Common Council and the mayor, have to speak with one voice.
All right. Well, like I said, send me the language, and like I said, I'll be happy to do that. But who would this master be? Will it be someone already in place, or will we have to? It'll be the superintendent will be the master. Oh.
Because he was appointed, the school district was in receivership. So he came in, he had the power to immediately create changes without having to go through all the negotiating and all of the bureaucracy of it. He could just, this needs to be fixed, this principal needs to go, this staff needs to be changed without having to play around with stuff. So immediately we started seeing changes when he first got here because he had that power. Once that power was gone, you saw an immediate shift in how everything was happening with the contention in the district and all of that, because he no longer had that power to just implement the changes. So likely that person will be the superintendent. And I think I think it's important to note their violence in our school district is not by accident. If the kids have no field trips, no after school, they on the bus for hours, they're already way behind. Sam didn't talk about in the beginning that our kids are reading. 1 out of 5 kids can read and do math on grade level. So of every 5 kids you see, only one can read, right? So it's not a surprise that the kids are fighting. It's not a surprise that what else are they gonna do? Right? They're at their home lives are messed up. They come to school, they're being taught by teachers who don't look like them, who aren't in their community, that they're berated. Suspension is up. The only district in Buffalo, the only district in New York State where suspension is up is Buffalo. So it's a lot of things happening. And if we can fix this, it'll be a huge step to support the teachers, support the school district and the superintendent. So I hope we can move with urgency. So I love the conversation thread, Councilor Wingo, that you're leading here.
So at this point, we just kind of want to go around and see from, each level of government, is there a solution that, and then we have something specifically we want to talk about on this federal government, but we do want to give you the opportunity to share from each level of government if there's something that you see that you can do from your office or as a solution that you see that you can offer to this conversation. So we'll start over here and go around.
Thank you. I certainly, as I mentioned, will look to ask about the ESSER funds and other COVID relief funds. And I know the district does have a lot that is unspent that could be doing something. But I think that certainly any discussions of the state and special master and all that we're, as you had mentioned, the time that we're issuing. And I think you articulated this, this is a transportation, the initial problem here is transportation, but the consequence is academic. And what you're talking about the loss of time, and it's significant. And after what Reverend Pointer had mentioned with the learning loss, significant learning loss that has happened during the COVID lockdowns and the remote learning, there's an argument that there's no more time of greater need to have our children in the city schools in the classroom learning maximized. We need more learning time to make up for the loss if we're ever going to get our children back to where they were before, which was not where they needed to be. So the idea of an emergency, I think, sending that message, even if it doesn't have a legal hook, this message for all levels of government that we are focused on this. It seems to me that the superintendent's solution here makes sense. I, as a former school board member, was always frustrated with Phil Moore's answer on it's part of negotiations because that always, but could reasonable people get together and say, let's agree to the 3-bell schedule for the remainder of the year, and it doesn't go forward unless it's fully negotiated in a contract, or something along, or peel it off and negotiate and give something right now, but get it going and shoot to have this once kids come back after a holiday break. We just can't wait an entire year, remainder of year, because reports will come out that we've even gone farther, and it will be, I believe it will be exacerbated. It won't be a trend line falling, it'll get worse because the longer you're out, the more. So I think that to try to focus on supporting the solution and getting the 2 people who can make this decision today, and let's be honest, Phil Moore can make the decision for that. That. So he's the leader of that union. He would be able to go communicate this to the members if he wanted to and get it done. So I'm happy to look at other avenues, but that's going to be a time suck, and it's going to take a long, we're months and months and months, and that's something our kids can't afford and don't deserve.
So is there anything that you are willing to do to kind of get that message to the field more?
Mirror language and what the councilman's going to do at our level, and I'm happy to work with his district. I would in deference to him to do something along those lines.
Great, thank you. We're going around to the electeds. Go ahead.
Send me the language and I'll be happy to present the resolution to the Common Council. I want to make sure that I'm very clear. I am not anti-teacher. I am very much pro-teacher. I just don't think that it's appropriate for folks who don't live in the city of Buffalo, who are making decisions on behalf of our families and students, have no one here who's going to be directly impacted by those decisions. I think that's a mistake. But I am very much pro-teacher, and presenting this resolution with the language that will be sent to us is not a knee-jerk reaction. I do look at you all as the experts on education in the city of Buffalo, and I highly regard and respect your input and feedback on what's happening. And this is why I'm confident, especially with the involvement of people like Pastor Pointer and Bishop, the Bishop, that we actually do move forward with these things, because you all have been very much involved for a very long time. You didn't just step on the scene yesterday or the day before. You've been working on this for a very long time. So I have full confidence that the solutions that you all are offering, especially I appreciate Brother Duncan being an advocate for education. From the time he arrived on scene up until today, he has been talking about education and the equity in education. So this is not a knee-jerk reaction on my behalf. I have been hearing your conversations from day one, and I do trust the information that you've provided to us, and I do trust your positions as well. So this is why I'm confident to present this language to the City of Buffalo Common Council, and we should, based off of what I've heard here today, it should be passed unanimously, but I can't speak for everyone.
And just as a way to, address, the possibility of a knee-jerk reaction, even the council held an emergency hearing and brought the Teachers Federation to come speak for themselves. Just my point is to get everybody acting in an urgent way with a sense of urgency, saying that, you've been made aware of this. We want to have an emergency hearing so that we can have whoever air whatever they want to air. But we need to move on it. We need to have something happen.
And out of respect, just because you just made that statement, I don't want to overstep the current chair for the Committee on Education. If we could send him the language.
We sent him the language, and we were told that somebody from his office was going to be here today. We were told that. Yeah. No, I'm just saying, I'm just let the record be clear that we were told that somebody would be here. All right, I got you.
At present, I can't speak to any particular solutions, but I'm happy to take all of this information back to the mayor to garner additional support for urgent action, and as well as briefing other members of executive leadership on the urgency of the needs, and we will do what we can.
And as a follow-up to this, can you ask the mayor to meet with us and the executive team to meet with us directly about anything that can be taken urgently? Because again, this was the process of informing, but what we're looking for is what's going to happen next. And so if we can set up something as soon as possible with the people, the mayor and executive team to say what they can or can't do, we would appreciate that.
I'll be happy to set that up.
Thank you very much.
Similarly, I will bring all this information back to our office. No one wants to see the children fail or the schools fail. So, and you've done quite a bit of background to get to this point. So I will be happy to relay all this information back to our office and to Senator Ryan.
And of particular interest is the fact that Senator Ryan is on the education subcommittee of the New York State Senate. And so it's a priority for us to, because this is not just started. This transportation issue has been going on for years. And so we're asking if Senator Ryan, as part of the education subcommittee, can bring this forward so we can provide some oversight. And so the education subcommittee conducts some hearings to find out what is the underlying issue going on that needs to be addressed so we're not here year after year after year.
Understood.
And if he could set up a meeting with us to follow up and let us know if that we can move forward with that.
Yes, I will. It'll be a priority for me with them. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan from Congressman Higgins' office. I would just sort of echo what Congressman Jacobs said. If this is treated like a true emergency, we have to find solutions that, maybe aren't part of a larger contract negotiation. I'm curious to see what the parent involved, how the pilot program is going for parents driving kids. If that's a temporary solution, I don't know how that's going. But if this 3-bell schedule could be treated like another pilot program to get us through, this calendar year, the congressman certainly would lend support to any type of, solution that's driven by the parents and the community. that care so much about the kids. So, we're happy to be here to listen and to, support other measures to raise awareness in the community about the severity of the situation for the kids in our school district. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. So.
And so on another specific acts that we would like Congress to take a second look at is we had a meeting with Mike Rebel, attorney Mike Rebel, who was the attorney who brought the Campaign for Fiscal Equity lawsuit against the state. And he suggested that the children not getting a full day of instruction, not getting after school, and not having the other enrichment activities, it could be a violation of the civil rights of the children. As he said it's definitely a violation of their right to a sound basic education. He said because they are protected classes here, the federal government has oversight authority, and that we should be, the federal government should be looking at, whether the children, the fact that their civil rights are being violated, it's as a way to put an immediate intervention in place. So is that something that the congressman is willing to explore?
Sure. Now, do you meet with the Office of Civil Rights on that?
Yep, we're
Do you
gonna
have-
meet with them specifically on that. But one of the points that he made is that the funds that come down, the ESSER funds and the ARPA funds that have been approved by Congress, 20% of those funds were supposed to be set aside specifically to address students who fell behind. And that money was also supposed to be, that money, the pipeline that it came through was through Title I. And because it's through the Title I pipeline, there's a requirement that money has to be used as supplemental money, which means that their basic educational needs have to be met, and you can't supplant those resources. You can't use those resources until after you've provided them the foundational education they're supposed to be having. He's saying, so it's worth some oversight in that area to make sure that the funds are being spent in a way to ensure that the children's, academic needs are being met. And that's something that in the process of doing that could motivate, getting to a solution quicker, and making sure the funds are being utilized in a way that gets us better academic outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we'd want to be briefed on the discussion with OCR or present if you'd want our office to participate. Be happy to.
We'd be happy to have you present. I think it was the 20% was 20% of the ESSER money had to be used to catch kids up. Is that correct, Pastor Pointer? Thank you.
Good morning, and excuse me for my tardiness. We just laid the county budget on the table, so that was a process in and of itself. I'm willing to, for my position as a chair of public safety, have a supporting resolution come down. I'll probably bring it in front of our Democratic caucus to get them on board as supporting it. We could talk about other measures where the county could be, supportive of you guys and whatever else we need to do. But right now, I know that I'm willing to, introduce this resolution for this 3-bill approach to get the ball rolling. What's happening, this is something that the school system has had over a year to discuss. I remember last year sitting over in Waterfront, and you and Bishop Badger talked about, hey, we had a whole year to get this thing done, and that was a year from then, and now we're back at the same point we are now. I think it's ridiculous. So, I'm willing to push forward a resolution in that and see whatever else we can do. Again, like Councilman Wingo said, I am pro-teacher. I am, for the schools, but we have to get this problem solved. So, whatever we can do to help out, that's what I'm willing to do.
All right. Thank you so much, County Legislator.
Yeah, this is problematic. And I think I can speak for the senator in saying that this is a problem that we need to solve immediately. And like I was just saying about this MOU situation, I think I agree with the 3-bill system. I think that it's perfectly logical. I get that there's politics in this, and that's a problem in itself. But if this is something that you guys want, the senator is going to stand behind that. And so, whatever the city does, legislature, if they put together this resolution, obviously we have the ear of the governor. So we will make sure that it gets to her desk.
Are you in a position to explore the possibility with the governor of the declaration of the state of emergency?
Well, obviously that has to come from the governor. That's her
Right.
decision. But the senator can definitely tell her how he feels about that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we'll
in our
definitely,
interactions with.
we
the
don't have
governor.
a problem having that conversation with the governor.
And that's what I'm saying, because and anytime we have the interaction with the governor, they turn around and say, well, what is your local council member saying? What is the mayor saying? What is the state
Well,
legislature saying?
that's what I'm saying, that
So-
once we get that in line, if we get the city in line, we get the council in line, we get the legislator in line, please bring that to Senator Kennedy, and all we can do is advocate for you guys, as we've been doing. So.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks for coming today. I want to express the importance of this. Families are out there losing hope. They have no confidence in the system. Attendance is at an all-time low. Morale's at an all-time low. This is not something that we can wait 6, 8, 12 months, weeks. Like, you just said, last year we were in Waterfront and we were all speaking on behalf of the, paying parents to drive. Everything's at a snail's pace. We're begging you to speed this process up and somebody save our children. Sam's been doing a great job with this, but I'm here to say we need action today. Our children can't wait until after Christmas to have this bell time saved. We need somebody to please save us. That's what we're here. This is what our group is saying. We're acting, we're all here, we're fighting, but we can't do this alone. We need the governor, the president, somebody to step in and say, save our children. Thank you.
One other question, is there existing language out there for a resolution?
We have information, we have the background information that was sent to your office that also you can put together a resolution from that. Depends on what level of government and what you're looking to do. But at this point, at least we're from a task force perspective, our support is for the superintendent's solution. The superintendent has a common sense solution. We would like to see, that happen one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's the superintendent to do it, whether the governor imposes it, whether the union negotiates it, but that gets us moving the quickest. And so our hope is that by having this critical mass of leadership who all on the same page saying the same thing, and if there's something we don't know, again, we don't assume that we know everything, which is the reason why we focusing this on solutions and we inviting people in. This is not about attacking nobody or going after nobody. It's about inviting everybody to the table to talk to us about how do we solve a problem for our kids. You know what I mean? And so at this point, if you could be helpful in that process, that's ultimately what we're looking for.
So yeah, what I'm gonna do when I leave this meeting, I'm gonna go back downtown and then we're gonna start that process from the county's perspective, and I'll talk to our caucus members to get them on board to support this. So we'll start that process together. I just wanted to know if there was any existing language, but from the information, we can draw a resolution from it.
Yep, all the background information is there, all the demands are there, all the current what happened up until this point has taken place. All right, so let me move to close. Let me go around and just give everybody an opportunity, starting with our co-chairs of the committee, and then we'll give everybody an opportunity to say what they want to say, and then we'll close.
I just want to say, when we had the meeting with Phil Remore, there were groups of students that came to that meeting. And the students asked David Hills straight out, like, how do you know that children are safe when they're waiting for the bus? And what I think about, when I think about the urgency of this issue, I think about the fact that any day kids could be standing there waiting for the bus alone and something could happen. And there are groups of us and individuals that know that kids are standing waiting for the bus alone, or they're waiting many hours at school. And as David Hills himself said, children in pre-K and kindergarten waiting hours for the bus and having to wait to go to the bathroom, or there are so many awful pieces of this when you think about the reality of it. And so I really am encouraged by everyone's attendance here today. And this is a crisis, and we need to move together and quickly.
I did exactly what I said I wouldn't do. We have people who have joined us, and so we want to make sure we don't leave you out of this conversation. So we're gonna end like we started. We're gonna end with you. And so I know Latrice, you said that you want to make a comment, and then I see Vanetta, you will be next. So Latrice, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I would like to first thank you guys for attending this meeting, for calling this meeting, and actually helping us support. I am a parent, first of all, Buffalo Public School. I am also a professional, a childcare professional. I run a daycare business, and I have a lot of concerns regarding the situation. For the past year, I actually transported my children to and from school. I did not sign up for the childcare, for the reimbursement, just because I think this is not necessary for me, but I completely transported my children back and forth. I've done my job as a parent. My children have not missed a day of school since school started. I have a 14-year-old that's in 9th grade. I have a 8-year-old that's in 3rd grade, and I have a 9-year-old that's in 4th grade, and they have perfect attendance since day one. But also to raise more issues to this, my concern is effective January 23, 2.5-year-olds will be able to go to school. Ms. Williams have allowed the children to attend school. I have a problem with that for a number of reasons, because we just started the reimbursement for the parents who are transporting their kids. So now with that being said, we're going to be back at square one, because with these 2.5-year-old children that will be allowed to go to school effective January, because of their age, they have to have a car seat. They also need a bus aid. My child, they go to school 81. Right now, they have 55 students on their bus. So now think about, they don't have a bus aid. So you're gonna have more children that have to be pulled off to, I'm sorry, not more children. You have aides that are in certain locations on certain buses that's gonna have to be pulled off of those buses to provide aids on buses for children that are 2.5, which is crazy. But also on a parent side, I feel that, what about my children that has been attending school? You haven't figured out a transportation situation for them, but you're adding on another transportation effective January. So you haven't figured out my children, but why would you add on more children to this transportation issue? So you're gonna put us back at square one with buses being late, more children, more accidents. It's not safe. Versus they could have left the children where they are, partner with childcare providers, and we are willing to partner to give them that stabilization. You know, you have 2.5-year-olds, 3-year-olds standing outside at 6:15 in the morning. They're cold, their buses are not coming. We already have older children that's doing that. And we have to figure out some way to work together as providers, as parents, as professionals. And it's traumatizing the children. Mind you, you have 2.5-year-olds that's not potty trained, so they're gonna have accidents. They don't know their names, they don't know their parents' names, they don't know where they live at, unfortunately. So I want to just give you an insight to that as well, because this is coming forth and this is going to be another issue. It's going to be another damper. It's going to be traumatizing to our children in the Buffalo community. Also, just brings to mind, my 14-year-old just graduated from Buffalo Public School. I did put him in a private school based off of there is no sports activities for the children. And that was something that he was very big on. He was very depressed as far as not being able to participate in different after school activities. So it forced me to do that. And you have to think it's going to force other parents to do the same thing, to put their children from Buffalo Public, put them in private schools just for that after school activity programs. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Vanetta.
Yes, I copy what Ms. Martin said, but I just want to uplift the solution that she had talked about, and what we're focusing on as Western New York Child Care Action Team as a part of this team that is meeting today, is that definitely if this situation is already abysmal for the children within the school district from K through 8 or even K through 12, if you really want to look at it, imagine for the youngest children now who are 2 and 9 months up to 4 years old entering the school walls and having to engage in this busing situation. Additional solution to this would be partnership with community child care providers, because they're open before school, during school, after school, one-stop shop for these young children until this situation works itself out and the children can safely be within school walls and continue to get the care, early care and early education that they need. We seek partnership. We, again, like everybody said, are not adversarial, but we very much are in support of the plan that needs to happen. It's definitely a state of emergency for our youngest children. There are 3-year-olds that will be entering set to enter the school district in January. And if the busing is not there, not just the busing, the aides are within the busing so that there's enough supervision of these young children is not there, this will be a critical situation. So please, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you for lifting up the issue, reminding us that this situation would include 3-year-olds coming in January, and also bringing a solution to how we could potentially prevent it from creating a crisis for the 3-year-olds. So thank you for that. Is there anybody else online who wants to comment as we move to close?
I would. It's Giordana. I just wanted to
Go
say
ahead.
that, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I think we have to have multiple ways to approach this because it's so detrimental and so and it's needed immediately. You have 4 solutions that's on the table: the bell schedule change, in addition to the partnership with the child care providers. In addition, there are 2 other things that we could address: multiple busing companies. I think right now we only have 1 company that can transport the children. And another thing, a higher pay for aides, may get more aides in the bus with some type of training prior to putting them on there. So that's 4 solutions that can be used at the same time, simultaneously.
Thank you for saying that. And let me just say this to the state legislators, because David Hills did share this. He did share that in Detroit, they have a similar situation with transportation. And in Detroit, they are able to contract with vans to take kids to school to be able to, solve some of the problem. But in New York State, because of some law, we can't contract with vans. We can't have van services because you have to have a CDL or he didn't go into the details, but my point is that may be another set of solutions, that there is some legislation that's blocking it. There's some current law that's blocking it. So if we can explore, just other ways to provide the transportation besides first student bus service. He said that the district is not allowed to own vans. Is that one of the things he said? The district not allowed to own vans? That they're not allowed to own vans. And so, but he said it's almost something that could be remedied at the state level in terms of some legislation. So if we can explore options for getting kids to school besides the school bus, that will be helpful as well. Anybody else online want to make a comment?
I just wanted to say very quickly, thank you for inviting me to this really important discussion and learning a lot more what's happening in Buffalo. I am a former transportation official at the state. I'm happy to use any of my experience and skills to support what's happening here and find solutions. I want to recommend as well that as everybody is providing great suggestions for solutions, it's also a responsibility of the folks that you're going to talk to in state agencies and other organizations to also help put their skills together and provide solutions. So you should not be alone in this. And as the association director for the charter schools, here to help. Charter schools are also feeling the pain of the shortage that's happening among bus drivers and their reliance on the district. So happy to help in that regard, but also it doesn't matter what kind of school their child goes to or where they go to. They're all of our children, and we are here to help do that on your behalf. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? All right. So what we'll do is we start to wrap up by going around our table. You want to start now?
So thanks everyone for coming and I'm just really pleased to see the level of urgency increase as the meeting has gone along today. You know, I'm a firm believer in accountability and deadlines, and it would be great to see this group set a deadline for solving this in a way that'll benefit the children. We don't need any research to know that if kids aren't in school, they're not learning.
Yeah, let's not move past that real quickly. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is because I also know just from the work that we're doing on the task force that what allows us to keep moving is because we do have clear, concrete deadlines. This from your perspective, what is a reasonable time frame for us to check back in to be able to see how this is moving?
No, I don't have an answer to that. I was going to tell you. I was just going to say that I've already sent the email. So they can start drafting the resolution. Hopefully we can get this filed at a late file today so that we can hear this at 2 o'clock.
Oh, now we talking. All right. There we go. So if because what we want to do is we want to revisit this as soon as possible. We also want to do it within what's realistic for y'all getting back, y'all briefing. You know, we don't want to just talk something. We want to know how soon can y'all get back with us in real terms so that we can decide our next steps.
So my suggestion is this is because we know that, you know, in the county legislature, I'm sure in the state and as the city, the Christmas holidays is among us. So it's probably one more session before we go to break. So, I mean, I think if anything it has to happen now within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, so that's what we're doing. We want to move within the next 2 weeks. So for each group, so in order to move in the county, what do we have to do to have something moving within the next 2 weeks?
What I'm gonna do, like I said, I'm gonna go back downtown, get something drafted up. I'm gonna try to move something by Thursday.
Okay.
In regards to that. So that's gonna be my approach to this matter is to move something by Thursday because I know we probably have one more session after that and we'll need time to sit at the committee to have that
No,
conversation. So
that's progress. Still we
All
go.
right.
So we got city a late file for the city, and it'll be hopefully on the council today. We got the council on Thursday. In terms of the Congress, is there a time frame that you can get back with us in terms of something that you can do to follow through?
My commitment is to issue the civil rights aspect. And we can start looking into that this week and how it affects funding. I'm not sure how the distribution of funds work for filling in that gap, but we can look into that, you know, this week.
Okay, so what we'll do, since we have the meeting with the Civil Rights Department this week, we'll include you in that. And then we can move together on that. All right, great. Anything from the state legislators in terms of something we can do? Because I know you're not a session.
Well, you know, I'm just going to be able to communicate the urgency today, and I can report back to you as soon as possible. So I can't really offer an actual.
All right, what about
but
you?
I'm going to work on it.
Right. Mhm. Okay, so if we ask both the senators for a letter of support for the 3-bill schedule, that's something y'all would consider doing, and then to be part of, you know, an effort to do something in terms of a state of emergency, y'all willing to be in part of that conversation with the governor. Great. Mayor's office.
I will see Mayor this afternoon and will certainly communicate the urgency. And I'll continue to follow up with the other members of executive leadership this week. I can't offer an idea on when they will come to a conclusion in terms of solutions, but we will get on this right away.
Can you at least ask if the mayor could say if he's willing to support the 3 bail schedule and if he's willing to meet with us to talk about the support?
That's part of my conversation
Okay,
with him
great.
today.
And then get back with us on whether he'll do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So does that timeline, Congressman?
I would just also be happy to get a letter out.
Great.
Right away, and I'll talk to Megan as well, and Brian, I'll see, I'm flying down tonight to talk about if we want to do it together. And then if you could include me in that meeting with the civil rights.
Oh, definitely. All right. So we'll do all that. All that'll happen on terms of timeline. All that'll happen this week. And then what we'll do is we'll see where we at on Monday. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to try to get this filed today, so that it will be late filed. If anyone objects to it, of course, it's out the window, but
Right.
I'll file this today for a meeting next week. Today, we'll decide what committee will go to. Committees are next week. So we'll have committees next week. And if that happens, you will have a platform to present to the entire city of Buffalo to bring this information back to the floor of the Common Council chambers to discuss, so that everyone, again, is aware of what's happening. This is, I think somebody used the word detrimental. This is catastrophic. And I believe that it was mentioned earlier about the little people. My wife and I, we have an 11 and a 10-year-old. Actually, wait a minute. 11 and 10, 12 and 11, who are both students at Olmsted. And one morning, my wife took our children to the bus stop, and she went to work thinking that the bus would be on its way. You got the little app, shows you where the buses are. But by the time I left the house, they were walking back towards the house like, little girls, where are you going? It's because the bus never showed up. So I took the children to school. So most parents don't have that luxury to have a 2-parent household, to have 2 parents who drive, who can actually take their children to school on any given day, that the system does not work the way the system is supposed to work. So my commitment is to make sure that this resolution gets out as fast as possible. And again, I don't want to overstep. And I've been in conversation with Councilmember Bowman. His staff did get sick. So that's why the staff is not here. And I thank him for not sending his sick staff here.
Great.
So we're grateful that his staff is not here, but hopeful that his staff gets better. But he did say we will discuss before the meeting today if he's willing to actually have that education meeting next week for committee to have this platform to speak about this again. So you'll know by the end of the day. And again, thank you, Bishop Badger. Thank you, Pastor Pointer. And thank you, Brother Duncan, for all of the work that you've done, Brother Sam and Brother Emmanuel, wherever he is. Appreciate all of the work you all have done to keep us, the community, informed. And as a parent of students and the husband of a former teacher of the school district, we know firsthand of all of the things that are happening that needs to be repaired. But this thing right here, one of the things I think Duncan said a couple of years ago was that the student classroom starts on the school bus. I think Duncan said that. He said the classroom starts on the school bus. I never thought of it that way. And if you don't have an aide on that school bus, the children are left to their own vices. They're left to do whatever they want to do. That leads for a dangerous situation. He really very, very, very clearly helped us understand that what other person do you know wants to drive a bus full of little babies with no one to keep the babies under control? That's a very dangerous situation for the driver. Who will want to drive that bus? So we have to make sure that we address this with the sense of urgency that you've conveyed and expressed today. And again, like I said, I appreciate all the work that you all have done. It's good to see Janique here, but I really appreciate all of the work that everyone here is committed to doing to make sure that we solve this problem yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member.
That's one thing we didn't talk about was what we're doing, like the process. Like there's a process to create change. And so I don't want you all to think like we're like Sam is just raising the bullhorn, fighting the power, which he does. But there's actually a process that Dr. King laid out for how you create change. It's called the Kingian Steps of Nonviolent Direct Action. And there are 6 of them. The first, the task force and the leadership with Bishop Badger, Pastor Pointer, they've already done, which is information gathering. They got the real information. This is real information. Step two is educating others. So they've been having all these meetings with electeds, the government officials, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to educate other people. The third is what we just did right here, which is personal commitment, right? Each one of you made a commitment. Now, normally that don't happen with news cameras, right? Normally when people make personal commitments, there's not like media, because now you all have been so brave and so like bold to say, this is what I'm gonna do by this time. That's on the record. So I want to applaud you all, because that's such a powerful thing for each of you to be here and to do that with such fervor, and passion for our kids. The next step is negotiation. So after we finish this personal commitment, everybody does what they say they're gonna do, we aggregate all the information. Next, we go back into negotiation, and we're gonna stay there back and forth between negotiation and step 5, direct action if needed, back and forth until we eventually get what we need. And then the final step is reconciliation. So just so everybody kind of understands the flow of how change is created, laid out by Dr. King, that's what we're doing right now. And so just seeing this personal commitment from you all has been incredible and inspiring. So thank you all. Really appreciate it.
I'd like to first thank everybody for showing up today. And I want to give you one example of what I deal with on a daily basis. Today's message is from yesterday. Bus 250 will not arrive at school until approximately 3:30. The terminal is also anticipating there will not be a bus for 2:45 until 5 p.m. This school, 64, has a dismissal time of 2:35. So this mother and all the mothers and parents in this group on these two buses were notified at 1:30 that their day was going to be inconvenienced. They won't have supper at the right time. They won't be able to do homework at the right time. 35 times this woman has texted me for help this year. 35 times. That's one school, 35 times. Imagine that. Imagine sending your kid to school, expecting to wait at the bus stop at 3 o'clock, and you get a notice they won't be home until 6:30. How can we let this happen? Thank you.
Let me be absolutely clear. Thank you all for coming here, sharing with us your time and your concern. In 1838, this community met to discuss the outcomes for children. This community decided in 1838 to create a school district. It had never been done in this country. We are in the same kind of position today. This is important, but if you do the things that you've committed to, today will not just be important, it will be consequential. And that's where we really need to go. And I want to thank all of you for sharing my birthday with me, and go do what you said to do. Go and do what you said, and we will be back with you shortly as we continue to work to improve outcomes for the youngest people in this community who don't get to vote.
Yeah, happy birthday. Let me say real quickly, I don't think that the district on its own can solve this problem. We were a part of the task force that came up with the recommendation to pay parents. And just to give you an example, we just met a week ago, and we thought that it was done and that they were in the process of implementing. What we found out at the meeting is that we were meeting again to see if we weren't recommended to the superintendent to then implement. The district in urban districts, it is set up, the structure is set up for adults' employment at the expense of children's education. So this should be a surprise to no one sitting at this table that we're where we're at. This is just really the, one issue. I mean, the whole district, I talked to, and I'm gonna be real quick, I talked to a former teacher. She said, Bishop, we could not even get copiers in the school without it being approved by the union. This is what our children are facing. And my fear is this: some child is going to be seriously injured, or lose their lives. And then we're going to move heaven and earth to try to make something happen. We need to be proactive and move heaven and earth right now. And let me say this, we are all in this together. It might not be your child, but these children that are being neglected are going to be the same children that is going to hold up a grocery store, that's going to hijack a car, that's going to shoot. And we see it happening over and over again. We know that they create spaces in jail for failure in 3rd and 4th grade. So this problem is all of our problems. We have to act immediately, and I'm glad to hear the type of response that we're getting. Remember, these children don't have a union. The parents don't have a union. The only voice that they will have is the people that are sitting at this table. Thank you.
So I'm encouraged as well by all of the representation that is here, and thank you all for being here, and encouraged by your call to action and your ability to want to move on this. This is a crisis, and you know, as Bishop said, this is a system that was made for adults, and myself and Chris and Reverend Pointer, as former school board members, we know this intimately. And I think that this action right here is what we need to elevate our community to another level of moving on this, and hashtag save our children, Ed. So I think that is of the utmost importance, and we're gonna roll with that. Hashtag save our children.
Let me just say in closing, again, thank you to everybody. We didn't talk about problems today purposely. We focused on the solution. But I do want each of you know that that the problem is way deeper than what we even expressed today. You know, we talked about the issue of safety on buses. You know, you should know that, I mean, a lot of, you know, serious things are taking place on busing that are exposing children to great danger. Children have been sexually assaulted on buses. Children have been brutalized on buses. You have children who are in kindergarten on buses with 8th graders. You know, and it's just that to be in that situation without no supervision is just an unsafe situation by itself. So what we're talking about is any of these things, one of them by themselves is a crisis. The transportation, the not getting a full instructional day, the not having sport, all them things are by themselves an issue. The increase in suspensions, we're blaming kids for what the conditions that adults created and giving them the consequences. So the problem is even worse, but we are confident that the sense of urgency has been expressed here today, and we want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. And so we look forward to the follow-up, and we will surely make sure we follow up the way that we said that we would. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.